Texas parents, did you know the current average cost to send your child to Texas A&M is $120,000? That's right, that four-year degree is going to cost you six figures. But it doesn't all have to be that expensive. In fact, the best way that I know of to cut that price down is buying an investment property instead of throwing away money in rent. And I'm gonna tell you how that can save you nearly $50,000 over the 4 years in this week's episode, where I do a deep dive into the analysis behind buying an investment property here in Aggie land while your son or daughter attends A&M. Hey, real quick, don't forget, at the end of this video, there's bonus content where I answer one of my clients' questions specifically about student housing. Yeah, thanks. Enjoy the video. This topic is near and dear to my heart for two reasons. One, if you know me, you know I hate things that are too expensive, like tuition. And two, I hate missing out on appreciation. And if you pay and throw away money in rent every single year while your student attends A&M, you're doing both. Let's start off with the expensive part of things. To send your child to A&M, in-state tuition, rent, the whole 9 yards, according to A&M's own calculator, is going to cost you $14,937 per semester. Multiply that out by a four-year degree, and you're looking at $119,496 just to get the degree. Guys, that is bonkers. But there's a better way. The other piece of this is the appreciation, and this one's near and dear to my heart because one of the nicest women I know, my own mother-in-law, she paid for rent for her children to attend A&M over an 8-year period. Now I look back over that 8-year period, houses appreciated by 47%. In today's dollars, that's $140,000. She missed out on $140K while she threw away money in rent, and I don't want that to happen to you, and it doesn't have to because there is a better way. Let's deep dive into the numbers of what it would look like to buy a property instead of renting one while your son or daughter attends the university. For our deep dive, we're going to compare the two paths you can take as a Texas A&M parent, and they are paying rent every single month for 4 years, or buying an investment property, renting out the remaining bedrooms, and growing your wealth every single year for 4 years. Now, I need to make some assumptions to make this analysis work. Let's start on the rent side. We're going to assume you can get a rental property or a room for your son or daughter to live in for $750 per month. That should be able to get you a nice room with its own bathroom here in Bryan-College Station. Now, I'm also going to assume, for simplicity's sake, that the rent will not go up. Although we know it likely is going to go up, for our scenarios, let's say it won't. On the buy side, I've got some assumptions I'm going to make. I'm going to assume that you're going to buy a 4-bedroom house. I'm going to assume that that house is going to cost you right around $350K, which you can get a great house for that money here in town. I'm also going to assume that the appreciation on that house will be 4.5% per year for those 4 years. Why 4.5%? Well, the median appreciation of a house here in Bryan-College Station over the last 30 years has been 4.7%. So 4.5% seems like a nice round number and a little bit conservative. So in our buy side scenario, we are going to spend $750 every single month, 12 months in a year, 4 years to get the degree. Side note, it took me 4.5 years. Guys, hopefully your son or daughter is smarter than I was. But in those 4 years, you're going to spend $36,000 in rent. Sunk cost, all expense, it's gone. Or on the buy side, you're going to buy a $350,000 4-bedroom house. You're going to put 20% down, or $70,000. Your loan is going to be $280K. We're going to assume 7% interest over 30 years. Roughly, your taxes will be 2% of your purchase price, so that's right around $7,000 a year. And your insurance, let's assume right around $1,800. That's about what my clients are getting. Again, we're going to apply 4.5% appreciation to that number for our analysis. Looking at your cash flow on the buy side, you have $2,613 worth of expenses. That is PITI, principal, interest, tax, and insurance. And then on the income side of things, you should be able to get at least $650 per bedroom times the 3 bedrooms means you're bringing in $1,950, leaving you an expense of $663 every single month out of your pocket for that rental property. There's more to this story than just the numbers. So before we jump into the final numbers, let's talk about the other factors at play. So if you are going to buy a house, you will have to provide some level of maintenance to that house over the 4 years. But ultimately, you're providing the same safe, secure living environment for your son or daughter while they attend A&M that you provided for them for the last 18 years. The same safe, secure environment I provide for my 2-year-old daughter today. Yes, there's some expenses that come with it, but ultimately they know exactly where they're going to be living for the next 4 years while they get that degree. On the rent side, you lose a lot of control. Yes, the maintenance expenses aren't necessarily your headache, but when and how it gets fixed is really up to that landlord or that property manager. Ultimately, the rent increases are up to that landlord or that property manager. Even the renewal of that lease is up to that property manager or landlord. They could sell the house from under you, which means your son or daughter might not have a place to live next semester. They've got to go through the headache of finding somewhere else. All of that is a non-issue if you buy a house. But the numbers are really where you see that difference. So on the rent side, it's pretty clear. We did the math, $36,000 over 48 months, gone. On the buy side, it's a little bit more tricky. So we're going to assume that you're going to sell year 4. At 4.5% appreciation, that $350,000 house appreciated by $67,381. That means the sale price of your house would be $417,381. Now, if you are going to sell, there are some expenses associated with it. You're going to pay a real estate agent to list it. You're going to pay some closing costs. Roughly, that's come out to right around $25,000. And of course, you have to pay off the remaining balance of your loan, meaning at closing, you would get a check for the proceeds of that sale would be $112,338. But that's not all profit, because remember, we had a net loss every single month. You lost $663 per month times 48 months comes out to $31,016. So we have to subtract that. We also have to subtract your original down payment because, of course, you put that money into it, you need to get it back out. That's $70,000. So we now see a net profit, a net gain on the sale of this house of $11,322. Guys, in one side, on the renting, you lose $36,000. On the buy side, you gain over $11,000. The difference between the two is $47,322. That means these two parents who started with their students at the same year, who took 2 different paths, are nearly $50K different at the end of 4 years. That is the power of buying an investment property. None of these numbers are ridiculous. You can buy a great house for $350K. You can fill those rooms for $650 a pop, and you can come out ahead by nearly $50,000 at the end of those 4 years. Guys, the $47,000 savings is for just one student over 4 years. But remember, my mother-in-law sent 3 kids through A&M. I just wish I could go back to 2011 and grab my mother-in-law by the shoulders and shake her and say, please do not throw away money in rent. You could be making $100,000 or more. But I can't. But today I can do that for you. I can tell you right now, if you want to make money while your son or daughter goes to A&M, if you want to avoid throwing away money in rent, please invest in real estate. Guys, this is your opportunity. If you want to reach out to me, all my contact information is in the description below. But remember, guys, I'm throwing in bonus content on every single episode, and here it is. Here is my client question of the week, and it goes something like this. Hey, Greg, you already sold me on it. I want to buy an investment property for my son or daughter while they attend A&M, but when should I start looking? Mr. Client, that's a great question, and let me answer that for you and for everybody out there. Guys, the timeline is very important here in A&M. You see, most of the students are going to have a lease signed for the fall semester sometime by April. April and May, almost all the students have already signed leases. They know where they're going to live. So if you want to find roommates for your son or daughter to fill the house that you're going to buy, you want to find those roommates and fill those rooms in February and March. That means you want to close on a house by February, which means you need to start buying houses in January, and you need to start looking in the fall. Guys, we're already in January. You're already behind the ball. So if you want to buy a house in College Station and you want to have it for your son or daughter to live in the fall of 2025, you need to start looking now. Guys, that wraps up this video. As you know, I drop a video every single week, and I will have a new video for you next week. Until then, take it easy.